Resourceful Designer, episode 301. Time for a tool audit.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He has a new puppy. It's another Sheltie, and he named him Loki. Mark DeCote.
Yep, he's such a smart puppy. My wife's been teaching him all sorts of tricks, and he catches on so fast. It's fun having a dog in the house again. Anyway, in this episode of Resourceful Designer, I want to talk to you about the tools you use. More specifically, about the money you spend on those tools you use. Or maybe I should be saying, the money you spend on the tools you don't use. But more on that in a moment. Right now, I'm very happy to announce that this podcast episode is brought to you by Sticker Mule. Now, if you've been a long-time listener of Resourceful Designer, you know that I rarely have sponsors on this show. And it's not from a lack of opportunity. I receive inquiries all the time about people wanting to sponsor Resourceful Designer. But when it comes to this podcast, my first thought is always about you. What is it that you need? What advice can you use? And what resources can help you with your design journey? And that makes most of the sponsors who approach me not really a good fit. So I usually thank them very much for considering Resourceful Designer, and then I turn them down. But when Sticker Mule reached out, I knew right away I wasn't going to turn them away. Why? Well, for one, I've actually used Sticker Mule before, so I'm familiar with their excellent service and the high quality of the stickers they produce. Therefore, I can actually recommend them to you with confidence. And two, they fit perfectly into what I'm doing here on Resourceful Designer. And that's sharing things with you that can benefit your design business. And Sticker Mule can do that. Now, I love how easy Sticker Mule makes it to order stickers in any custom shape or size that you want. And their prices are great, plus they offer free shipping. But you don't have to take my word for it. Sticker Mule is offering listeners of Resourceful Designer a special deal so that you can find out for yourself just how great they are. You can get 10 custom stickers for just $1. You heard me right. That's $1. And remember, it's free shipping. And you can even use this deal if you're already an existing Sticker Mule customer. All you have to do is visit stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner to get the deal. That's it. stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. Order your 10 custom stickers for $1 today. Thank you, Sticker Mule, for sponsoring this episode. Now, as I said, I want to talk to you about tools. But first, I want to tell you a story. A couple of weeks ago, my daughter, who lives in Ottawa, Canada's capital, invited her mother and I for dinner. Now, Ottawa is just over an hour from where we live, so my wife and I drove up and arrived mid-afternoon. Now, as always the case, mother and daughter have lots of things to do and talk about with each other, which pretty well left me up to my own device. So I turned on their TV, launched Disney Plus, and started scrolling through the menu to find something that I could watch. Now, I knew that there was the possibility that they may need my help with something, so I didn't want to choose something that I would need to really get invested in. And after some time, I decided to watch the Pixar movie, Up. Now, I hadn't seen Up since my kids were young, but I did remember that it was a fun, feel-good movie. Plus, since I had already seen it before, I wasn't really concerned if I ended up missing part of it for whatever reason should my wife or daughter need me for something. Now, in the movie Up, there's a character named Doug. Perhaps you're familiar with him. Doug is a dog that the two main characters meet along their journey. Now, Doug wears a special collar that his master made for him that allows him to talk. Now, I don't want to spoil too much of the movie in case you haven't seen it, and you really should. It's a great movie. But let's just say that Doug, like most dogs, is easily distracted. This is evident in the movie every time he sees a squirrel. He may be mid-sentence explaining something extremely important when he gets distracted. If you've ever heard the term Squirrel Syndrome to describe someone who is easily distracted, it came from Doug from the movie Up. Now, a close sister to Squirrel Syndrome is Shiny Object Syndrome. Shiny Object Syndrome is a continual state of distraction brought on by the ongoing belief that there's something new worth pursuing. According to Wikipedia, Shiny Object Syndrome is a psychological concept where people focus on a new and fashionable idea, regardless of how valuable or helpful it may ultimately be. While at the moment, it seems to be something worth focusing one's attention on. It is ultimately a distraction. People who face a fear of missing out are especially susceptible to Shiny Object Syndrome, since the distraction of shiny objects in themselves clouds judgment and focus. Now, I have a confession to share with you. For a long time, I suffered from Shiny Object Syndrome when it came to software. Any time I heard of a new tool, especially software, that might somehow make my life easier, I wanted it. Even if I had no idea how or why I would use it. It was that fear of missing out, the FOMO. The pitch or ad or recommendation made the software sound so helpful and desirable that I just had to have it. Someone would mention it to me, or I would read about it, how this new software was the be-all and end-all of softwares, how using it can save you, 10 hours of work per day, how your clients will start mailing you envelopes full of cash for all the amazing features you can offer them because of this software. It sounds too good to be true, but what if it isn't? Can I really pass it up? And if I act right now for a limited time only, I can pay $99 instead of the regular price of $9,000. Wow, what a deal. How can I pass that up? Okay, you know I'm exaggerating a bit here, but you also know that there's some truth in what I'm saying. Looking through my applications folder, I see several tools. By the way, I'm using the term tools and software here interchangeably, but looking through my application folder, I see several tools that I bought and never used. Or maybe I used them for a short time before either consciously giving up on them, or sometimes I just forgot about them because they weren't as helpful as I thought. I fell for the hype. And that's not counting all the online tools, the memberships, the communities, the websites that I paid for and never ended up using. We work hard for our money as designers, and we have to be careful not to waste that money on tools we don't really need. Case in point, have you ever heard of Dudley? Dudley is a tool that lets you easily create whiteboard animation videos. You know, the kind of video where you see a white screen and then a hand holding a marker comes out and it draws an animation really, really quick. These are great for creating explainer videos. Well, a few years ago, I saw a Facebook ad promoting a lifetime license for Dudley. Now, Dudley normally costs $39 a month, but for a one-time purchase of $67, I can have access to it for life. Now, there's no arguing. That's a fantastic deal. The problem is, I've never used it. The ad pitch made it so appealing that I thought to myself, this would be an excellent service to offer my clients. And they hooked me in. The thing I never thought about was that in my 30 plus years in the design space, I've never once had the need to create a whiteboard animation video. Not once did I ever think, you know what? A whiteboard animation video is exactly what this client needs and should have. I really wish I knew or had an easy tool to make them. But when I saw that ad, I was blinded by the possibility of this tool. But in the 3 years since I fell for that deal, the opportunity to create a whiteboard animation video has never come up. So even though it was a fantastic deal, it was a waste of money. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with Dudley. It may be a great tool and it may be helping tons of people out. It's just not a tool that I need. Sure, I bought a lifetime deal for it, so now I have it should the need ever arise. But why spend money on something you may or may not ever need? It seems that these days, everywhere you look, there's some sort of tool or software that can benefit you and your business. I'm a big fan of Appsumo. I even have an affiliate for them, resourcefuldesigner.com/Appsumo if you ever want to buy anything. Now, if you're not familiar with Appsumo, it's a website that offers software products at amazing deals, often lifetime deals where you pay once and own the software forever or can use the software forever. Appsumo does a fantastic job at making these deals seem irresistible. How owning them will improve your life and streamline the way you work. In other words, they are great at marketing the products they promote in a way that really makes you want them. And Appsumo is just one of these sites. There's Pixar, MacHeist, Mighty Deals, and many other websites that offer lifetime deals for great sounding products. And if you're going to buy something, a lifetime deal is the way to go. After all, why pay monthly for something if you can pay once and use it forever? I've bought lifetime deals on several software and tools that I use daily, and they've saved me a ton of money. Plutio is my project management software. Normally costs $39 a month. I paid $49 for a lifetime license when it first came out, so I never have to pay monthly. Billways is the software I use for invoicing. Although when I bought it, it was actually called Easy Billing 360. They rebranded after I bought it. But the plan I have costs $99.99 per month. And yet I paid $59 for a lifetime license. SocialBee, a platform used to schedule and recycle social media content. It costs $39 a month. I paid $49 for a lifetime license. Book Like a Boss, the appointment scheduler that I use to set up Zoom calls with my clients. The plan I have costs $15.83 per month. I know, weird price. But I paid $49 for a lifetime license. So just these four alone have saved me a ton of money because I don't have to pay monthly for them. And that's just a few. So you can see how buying a lifetime license is worth it. And that's not to mention all the different things you know from past podcast episodes that I use Divi exclusively to build my websites. And I've bought so many lifetime licenses to Divi add-ons to make my life easier in website building. And that's just a few of the tools. So you can see how buying a lifetime license is well worth it. But that's provided you actually use the tool that you buy. You see, I've also bought many lifetime licenses on these sites and elsewhere that I don't use. I was a culprit of shiny object syndrome. My problem was I would buy a great sounding tool without knowing why or how I would use it. And I wasted a lot of money because of that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the products sold on any of these sites are not good. Many of them are. And they do help a lot of people. But just because they help a lot of people doesn't mean they're going to help you. In fact, my Appsumo purchase history is 4 pages long and dates back to 2015. And you know what? When I look through those pages, I can see a pattern. Every piece of software that I bought and that I still use today is something I bought because I needed it at the time that I bought it. Equally, almost every piece of software I bought but didn't have an immediate use for, I don't use anymore, if I ever used it at all. Just because something might be helpful to you someday is not an excuse to part with your hard-earned money today. Owning many different tools doesn't make you a better or more efficient designer if you don't or can't use those tools. Remember, you're what makes you a designer, not the tools you use. Just like, say, a photographer is a photographer regardless of what camera or lenses they use. Think of a photographer for a moment. Just because they buy a new lens doesn't make them a better photographer. Sure, it may allow them to take photos they maybe couldn't take before. That only helps them if they take the kind of photo the new lens is designed for. A portrait photographer doesn't need a high-powered zoom lens, so buying one is a waste of money for them. As a design business owner, you have to be careful about the tools you purchase. That's why, to help fight my own shiny object syndrome, I started to apply filters and to question every tool I'm considering buying. It helps me to stop wasting my money on tools that I don't really need. And I think you should do the same. Don't ask yourself whether or not a new, shiny tool will be helpful, because in most cases, it could be helpful. Look at Dudley. It's a very helpful tool if you need to create whiteboard animation videos. Instead, ask yourself whether or not it's something you actually need right now or in the foreseeable future. Are you currently in a situation or know of an upcoming situation that can benefit from owning that tool? If you can't think of an immediate use for it, then there's no sense buying it. Now, sometimes you feel tempted by a tool because you feel it will help fast forward something that might be difficult that you're trying to avoid or get through. Take a CMS, for example, a client management system. There are hundreds of options out there you can use to manage your clients and your projects. And hearing how someone else is successfully using a different system may make you question your current system. But buying a new CMS may not be the answer. Maybe your frustration comes from a lack of understanding of your current CMS, and buying a new one is just an easy way of avoiding to deal with it. How does that old saying go? The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence? Even though a tool is working well for someone else, it may not be the answer to your problem. New is not always better. Instead, embrace what you already have and try to make it work for you. I mentioned how I use Plutio to manage my projects. Is it the best tool for the job? I have no idea. It might be, and it might not be. In fact, many designers use other tools that work very well for them. However, I invested in Plutio, so I'm making it work for me. And think about this. Tools that claim to make things easier or more efficient, or ones that say they'll save you time, may just attract you because you don't want to be doing those things. What sounds like a great deal may, in fact, be nothing more than a Band-Aid covering up what you really should or could be doing on your own. The tool is not always the answer. Now, I talked earlier about lifetime deals and how they can save you a lot of money, which is true. But be wary. The offer of a lifetime deal makes it so easy to get roped into purchasing something you don't really need. My Appsumo purchase history is evidence of that. It lists many lifetime deals I've purchased and never used. I bought them because I thought the price was just too good to pass up for something that may come in handy someday. In other words, they were a waste of money. I didn't apply my filters. I didn't have an immediate use for those tools, so I never should have bought them. But what about tools with monthly fees? How many tools do you have that you pay monthly for? Software, websites, memberships, all that stuff. And how many of them do you get your money's worth from? I had a subscription to Ahrefs. I had it for over a year. Well, Ahrefs is an amazing platform that helps you track, analyze, and grow websites. It's great with keyword research. It helps you analyze and monitor your sites and your competition's websites. You can track backlinks to websites and just so much more. It is so robust. If you're trying to build and grow a website, Ahrefs is a tool to have. But it does come at a cost. My subscription was $127 Canadian per month. And every month, when I saw my charge on my credit card bill, I questioned whether it was worth it. The tool is great. It can do so much. It is so powerful. And yes, it is worth that price. But I wasn't using it as much as when I first subscribed. And I questioned whether I was getting $127 worth per month out of it. And when I finally came to the conclusion that I wasn't, I canceled my subscription. Why should I keep paying $127 a month for a tool I only use occasionally, no matter how much I like it and how good it is? Should I find myself in a situation where I need it again? I can always resubscribe. But in the meantime, that $127 can be used elsewhere. I recently did an audit of all my monthly subscriptions, and canceled several of them that I no longer felt I needed. In all, I'm now saving over $300 per month. And these days, I do apply a filter, as I mentioned earlier, anytime I consider a new tool. If I see an ad for something interesting on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or maybe a podcaster I trust mentions something, or maybe a colleague tells me about some fancy new tool or software they're using. In the past, I might just go out and buy it, no questions asked. But now, I try to disconnect myself from the idea that the tools are the answer that will take me to that next level. The tools are simply a way to become more efficient at something. The tools are a means to an end. They're there to support and to help you with the things that you are trying to do. But once again, you're who makes you a designer, not the tools you use. In many cases, these tools can actually become a distraction and pull you away from the things you're trying to do. And they cost money. And they can become dangerous for you because they're masking the idea that they'll make your life easier. But they don't always. And you don't need all the tools. I want you to make an audit of all the tools you're currently using and figure out which ones are absolutely necessary. It can save you money. It can save you time. And it can actually bring you back to what's important for you and your business. Stop paying for the tools that aren't necessary. Think back to the photographer analogy. A photographer who buys a new lens every time they want to take a different kind of photo will soon find themselves with a very, very heavy camera bag to deal with, just like all the tools that we have to deal with. And imagine that photographer making a decision now. They have a dozen plus lenses to choose from, and it'll become harder and harder for them to decide which one to use. It'll actually work against them and make them a less efficient photographer because they don't have the time to master each of those lenses. So be honest with yourself. The tools you have right now, are you using them to the best of your ability? Are you maximizing the investment you put into them? Probably not, at least not for all of them. Tools are not magic buttons. You can't just buy something and all your problems go away. That's not how they work. So do that audit. Figure out which tools are necessary for what you do. Next, figure out which would be great if you actually did use them. Then decide if you want to commit to using them. And if not, get rid of them. Stop paying for them. And finally, figure out which tools you don't actually use or don't actually need right now and get rid of them. Save your money. Open up your wallet and your mind for the tools you actually will use. Your life will be better for it. Now, I do admit that I did this episode as much for me as I did for you. I failed at this before, and I want to hold myself accountable to be better at it in the future. And that's why I'm going to continue to ask myself every time I see a new tool come across my screen or somebody mention, do I really need it right now? Will it actually help me? Or is it just distracting me from what I know I need to do? And more often than not, it turns out I don't really need the tool, regardless of how good the deal seems to be. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Now, before I go, I just want to remind you, the Resourceful Designer community would love to have you as a member. But once again, if you don't think you'd take full advantage of it, then I don't want you to join. However, I can tell you, those members who are in the community tell me that it's well worth the investment and has helped them grow their business tremendously. And we've got some new things brewing up in the community that will be announced soon. So if you're interested in joining a community of designers that can help you run, improve, and grow your design business, then consider joining the Resourceful Designer community at resourcefuldesigner.com/community. And before I go, I just want to one more time thank Sticker Mule for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Take advantage of this deal they're offering you. 10 stickers for $1 and free shipping. All you have to do is visit stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. And if you do order something, take a picture of it and send it to me at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. I'd love to see what stickers you're having done. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not already, please subscribe or follow the show so you never miss an episode. But until next time, I am Mark DeCote, wishing you all the best with your design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.